Have you ever wondered how a tiny, rainy island off the coast of Europe managed to become one of the most powerful nations on Earth? It sounds almost impossible, right? But the story of this land isn't just about drinking tea or royal weddings. It is a wild, roller coaster ride filled with brutal invasions, devastating plagues, family feuds that make modern dramas look boring, and an empire that once covered the globe. From the moment the ice melted to the world wars that changed everything. We are going to walk through the incredible journey of how this nation was built from scratch, to understand how it all started. We have to go way back. Before there was an England, there wasn't even an island. Thousands of years ago, you could actually walk from Europe to Britain because it was connected by a land bridge. But when the Ice Age ended, sea levels rose, flooded that land, and cut Britain off from the rest of the continent. That separation changed everything. Even though they were cut off, they weren't alone. First, farmers arrived, building mysterious things like Stonehenge. But the real action started when the Romans showed up. Julius Caesar tried to invade, but he didn't stick around. It took a while. But eventually, the Romans conquered the place, built roads, cities like London, and even a massive wall to keep the northern tribes out. But like all great empires, Rome collapsed. When they left a power vacuum. That's when things got messy. Germanic tribes, the Angles and the Saxons, sailed over and settled down. They are the reason we speak English today. But they didn't have it easy. Soon, terrifying ships appeared on the horizon. The Vikings had arrived. They raided monasteries and took over huge chunks of land. It looked like England would become a Viking outpost until King Alfred the Great stood his ground. He pushed them back and began the dream of a united England. By the 10th century, England was finally a single kingdom, but the peace didn't last. In 1066, a French duke named William crossed the Channel and defeated the English king at the Battle of Hastings. This changed the country forever. The rulers now spoke French, built massive stone castles, and documented everything in the Domesday Book. As we move through the centuries, the story gets darker. The Middle Ages were tough. You had the Black Death, which wiped out almost half the population. Can you imagine losing every other person you know? But this tragedy actually gave regular people more power to demand better wages. We also saw kings fighting constantly, not just with France in the 100 Years' War, but with each other. This led to the Wars of the Roses, a brutal civil war between two families fighting for the crown. It finally ended when Henry Tudor took charge. His son, Henry VIII, is probably the guy you've heard of mostly because he had 6 wives and a bad temper. But he did something huge. He broke away from the Catholic Church just to get a divorce, changing the country's religion forever. His daughter, Elizabeth I, took over and led England into a golden age. This was the time of Shakespeare and exploration. England started looking outward, sailing the oceans and defeating the mighty Spanish Armada. It was a massive confidence boost for the nation. But after Elizabeth, things got rocky again. The Stuart kings clashed with Parliament about who was really in charge. It got so bad that it triggered a civil war. The people actually defeated and executed their own king, Charles I. For a short time, England wasn't even a monarchy. It was a republic led by Oliver Cromwell. Eventually, though, they decided they liked having a king after all and brought the monarchy back, but with much less power. By the 1700s, England united with Scotland to form Great Britain. This is where the history of the British Isles really starts to merge into a global story. With the Industrial Revolution, factories sprang up, and cities exploded in size. Britain built a massive navy and an empire that spanned the world. If you look at the history of England every year during this time, it's just constant expansion and wealth, but often at a great cost to others. However, the 20th century brought the hardest challenges yet. Two massive world wars drained the country's wealth and ended the empire. England had to rebuild and reinvent itself into the modern, multicultural nation we see today. Conclusion: so that is how a piece of land connected to Europe became an island. a Roman province, a Viking target, and finally, a global superpower. It's a story of survival and constant change, from ancient stones to modern skyscrapers. England has seen it all. If you enjoyed this journey through time and want to uncover more fascinating stories from the past, please hit that like button. It really helps us out. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, The Sleeping Historian, so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching.